Hello, this is the Unretired Engineer coming at you again. I'm going to talk today a little bit about my career as a author while I was also working as an engineer. So I'm come from a rather different background than some. My great-grandfathers on both sides were craftsmen, technologists of a sort. So on one side, a blacksmith, and then a company owner owning the factory body shop that grew out of that blacksmithy. On the other side, my great-grandfather was a watchmaker. My grandfather, a chief engineer of a firm in the automotive industry, making the fuel injectors for diesel engines. And my father was an engineer, so long background in technology, in creating. And, you know, we've been creating things of various sorts for a long, long time. So while I was had a career as a engineer working on electronic packaging, I was also writing. So have been writing really since high school, where I was one of the weird guys. I actually took typing back in the 70s in high school, and then I actually wrote short stories and would present them in class. So it was kind of odd. But then my first computer I bought partly to be able to write, and I was an early Mac purchaser, and I wrote on that. But I got really serious about it in the 90s as a relaxation. And that was one of the ways that I kind of took the stress out of my career as an engineer working in the technical world. I would come home and I would create, but in a different way. Writing was a pressure relief valve. During some very hard spots in my career, when I was working 75-hour weeks, 90-hour weeks, there were several occasions where, I went back to my house, and so I would then pick up my daughter and take her over to the skate park, and while she enjoyed herself out circling the arena, I would sit there writing a new chapter, writing and relaxing. And it's not that it's different in some senses. It was still, I was writing in the one job and writing in the other job. But here I was creating. My mind was free to flow. It wasn't having to be within these strict sidewalls of trying to make sure the money worked and the timing worked, all the rest of that. It was totally different because I was creating characters and moving them along and making sure the world was consistent. So it was different. It was a way of getting my mind to unwind, and worked, I think, pretty well. It's not that they're really that radically different. I've always seen engineering as not grinding the crank of technology, but as trying to craft solutions for whoever my customer was, whether that was another engineer who needed a component solution for his radio, or it was a customer who needed a power generation system that was built into their heavy vehicle. It was always a matter of creating a solution that was achievable and creating a team to build that device. So it's not that dissimilar. People often say that engineering isn't the same as writing a novel. Somewhat true, but not totally true. The reality is that you are creating a coherent world, whether that world is just a mechanical package, or that world is a universe where faster than light travel is possible, and people use some form of ray gun. So, but you need to create a consistent universe and a consistency, and then carry that through the whole product, so that the suspension of disbelief in the story is maintained, and people can enjoy the characters and the world. In the other, that they can get the product. creativity isn't subject to limitations like you're only creative in one area or another. It's something where your abilities are spread out over the things you're interested in. And engineering has always been one of my prime interests, as has science fiction. I learned to read very late, and I went from reading Dick and Jane up the hill to reading Zane Grey westerns and Andre Norton science fiction in a period of about 6 months. And I've read science fiction pretty consistently ever since. But although I love reading a lot of other things, history of technology, history of the world, sociology, and pretty much anything that catches my interest. And I try and take that and roll it into what I do in writing. So the writing piece is a way for me to relax. It's always been relaxing. The biggest problem I've always had is editing. Editing is not relaxing. That's real work, and that has been one of my limitations and why I haven't actually published more than I have. I have published several novels on Smashwords, and the comments I get back are often, well, he doesn't know where to put a comma or how to use a question mark, or he misspells, runs on sentences. And those are all things that an editor would do. But when I was an engineer and bringing up a family, I couldn't really afford to go and spend money on an editor. And to be honest, I couldn't. It was too much like real work and stress to go and have to do the deep work on editing. So, now the thing is, with the advent of AI and the ability of it to work in human languages and to absorb a huge amount of information and then use that information in a computer, I see that as a huge gain for people like me who love to create, but who have struggled with the editing. And that's really what I'm currently doing, is editing through a lot of my work and getting it ready for publication. Maybe it'll go someplace, maybe it won't, but at least it'll be something else that I will put out into the world. And that has always been one of my key ethos, is that I want to leave the world a little richer, a little better than the world that I found. Even if I'm not a great man, at least I am putting out something that others might enjoy, even if it's a small number, and that others can use, like the modules, like the power converters, etc. Across my career, the writing was a consistent thing. So, the BRAC closed my facility, and I had to move on. And I was doing less writing in those days, but I was still writing, and it was still a relaxation. So I was working, super hard at SatCon for a variety of things. And again, it was a way of me kind of decompressing, working through, letting my mind work, but not having to worry about work. So then DRS, basically, that job slid away, and I was still writing. I was producing, about a novel a year, one way or another. And then, the most recently, the work at Wolfspeed. And now I've pivoted, and I'm going to be using the new tools to move on and make a bigger footprint in the area of writing. So the more things change, the more they stay the same. So anyway, that's my bit for this week. So if you please hit the like button, hit the subscribe. I will continue to try and bring something out every week. If something here hit your interest and you have a comment or a question, please put it in the comments and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you very much. Signing off.